Good morning and welcome to a very special DIY/crafting episode. So today I'm trying two things that I am very excited about trying for a long time. We'll be doing color changing coasters today. Although it is not using a pencil or a drawing portrait, I hope you still enjoy it. If you do, give me a thumbs up, perhaps even subscribe for more portraits and perhaps even more of these crafting videos. And let's start. Okay, let's talk materials. So the first thing we need are coasters. And I'm actually doing this to try all those materials, but also because I want to do something a little bit bigger with those materials in the future. So we're going with not the most expensive options here. So these will be the wood coasters that we will be using and that we will be coating in a lot of materials to get an end result that we are hopefully happy with. And the first thing we have to do is use black color. I bought black spray for that because it's making it a bit easier for us. I hope it works. Then directly on that color we will be using our thermochromic liquid crystals. This is the most exciting part and the part where a lot of stuff can go wrong. So let's see how we manage. This will be done with an airbrush pistol, which I have not used in years. I tested it, it should work, we will see. For that we actually also use airbrush thinner. I hope we can use as few of this color changing thing than we have to, because it's not cheap. Then we will coat it in a single and very thin coat of matte varnish, just to protect it also from the next layer, because it will be resin. And resin gets very hot when it cures, so we have to be careful not to damage the color changing crystals. So we have to be careful. Okay, that's the materials and the game plan. I hope you're as excited as I am. Let's go apply the first coat. I decided to do it outside because a lot of the stuff we're using in this project is developing some fumes, and safety first. And second, a lot of shaking. The black I used was surprisingly black. So I probably would have only needed one coat, but I did two to be safe. While still sunny, it was already a little bit cold outside for the paint to dry properly. So I decided to take it all inside. Honestly, I did not think that my airbrush gun would actually work anymore. So I assembled it and braced for the worst. But, surprise surprise, it worked. I of course only used the airbrush gun as long as I had proper ventilation, open door and everything. And my next change of plan was to not use the thinner. I actually did not need it, and I found out I only needed 3 drops of this color for every coat, which was far less than I anticipated. With the airbrush gun I learned to really act careful with it. You don't want to pull the trigger the whole way, because that's just too much color on the same spot. You really want to distribute the color as evenly as possible. In between the coats I found out that you can actually use a hairdryer, which does not seem to have any negative effects at all. It just speeds up your process. And as a bonus, after the first few coats of paint, the color change becomes kind of obvious. Feeling hugely successful because of this, I was in for my first big disappointment. I tried to use the varnish. However, it's not a spray-on varnish and it seemed to rub off the thermochromic crystals. So that was a fail. I actually coated one other coaster before adding the thermochromic particles to see if that somehow changes the color. Perhaps it's more vibrant. We will see that in the end. And with all the materials I bought in preparation for this, there was one thing I forgot. A plastic cup for the resin. But where to get something like this spontaneously? For science. And then it finally was resin time. I only mixed up 30 gram, I did not want to have any leftovers, and it was more or less the perfect amount for 4 coasters. I mixed it a bit quick in the beginning, so there were a lot of bubbles in there. The resin should not drop down and connect the coaster to the cardboard, so I place it on a slightly smaller glass than the coasters are. The first time I put not nearly enough resin on the coaster, so it looked a bit bumpy. I remedied that with the second coaster, and afterwards also repaired the first one. And then I was honestly pretty amazed by how easy it was to get rid of all the bubbles simply with a lighter. And that's our day's work. 2 coasters without any varnish, 1 with the varnish underneath and 1 with the varnish on top of the thermochromic crystals. It took a lot longer for the resin to dry than I originally expected, but that was probably a good thing. I guess the resin doesn't get very warm or warm at all because the chemical reaction is so slow, but because of that there are some blemishes in here. After all, it took a lot of time to dry and that gave a lot of opportunity for dust and cat hair and stuff to adhere to the surface. And the thermochromic effect is just glorious. It only took about 5 seconds of heat from the mug with freshly brewed coffee for this strong of an effect. And then it took about 4 minutes for the color to fade and it was still slightly visible. They are not perfect, but I love them. And they were much easier to make than I anticipated. There wasn't that much that I actually could do wrong, at least massively wrong. There are a couple of mistakes I would correct in a second attempt, and there will be a second attempt. You see here at the edge that there wasn't enough resin on this one actually, and that is because it bent a little bit. I'm not sure if it bent during the process or if I just took a bent coaster from the get-go. I will have to keep an eye on that. But you see that it reacts very strongly just from my hand beneath it, and I love that fact. So it is not too thick at all. This is a perfect amount. So it is very reactive. It's a quite intense color. And this one was already much better. There is definitely enough resin on there, and you see also very reactive. But these are the 2 without any varnish on top. We had 2 where we experimented a little. Let's see how that turned out in contrast. Well, they're just as responsive actually as the others. This is the coaster where we had tried to put the varnish on top of the thermochromic crystals, and you see that the crystals were moved by using that brush. It might have worked with a spray varnish, but you see how uneven it became. So this is definitely not an option. Here we have tried to put the varnish underneath the thermochromic crystals. I've cooled them down, so let's try to heat them up pretty evenly. And they react pretty evenly. The one with the varnish, it looks like it might react a little bit stronger, so that might warrant further experimentation. But that's all for now. I hope you had fun. If you did, give me a thumbs up, perhaps subscribe. Let me know if you would like to have videos like this in the future. If there's anything special you want to know or want to see, let me know in the comments or join my Discord. I had a lot of fun. I hope you too. Thank you very much for watching. See you next time. Goodbye.